Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me via Zencaster on this Sunday evening is my friend Michael Lieboff. And Mike, the Islanders' mission is simple: win a game in New Jersey on Monday and clinch a playoff spot. Now, this team has done absolutely nothing easy all season. So if people are still a little concerned about this setup, I would not be surprised. I'm not nervous right now, but I'm sure closer to game time I would be. What is your confidence level going into, frankly, a huge? We joke about this a lot, but like this is really seriously the biggest game of the year. Like this is what it is. But where are you at right now with the Islanders on the cusp of maybe clinching a playoff spot?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about the hockey gods this week since our last episode, and I'll go into more of it lately. So where I am is I'm just not counting anything, any chickens before they
Right.
hatch. And I think my personality is someone who likes to gamble, um, and tries to catch a windfall or a break here or there. Plays into this. Like there will be some times where I'll have a bet that looks great, maybe, uh, big bet that I'm about to win, and it would take a miracle for it
Mm,
to not work out.
mm,
Um, and I won't even come close to thinking about what I'm going to do with the money or anything like that until it's done and in my account. Because I've seen far too many bets or
right.
even situations like that just evaporate. Um, and of course, there's some, PTSD
Mm,
wrangling around in my head from the last year against the Capitals, same game number 81. It was in April on a Monday night. It was on the road,
oh my
a
God.
7 p.m. start. It wasn't, I don't think 100% a win and in, but it was essentially a win and in.
Right.
That the Islanders, of course, fumbled. And after the game, we were both just despondent,
Yeah.
and I have that in my head. So I'm not saying I'm like panicking, but those are reminders are still in the room with me. So
Mm,
I'm not uh I'm not done worrying about this team just yet.
mm. Well, there's also this tiny thing about the Islanders have not beaten the Devils this year,
Yeah.
which is another problem too. But we'll talk about that, and then the real final game of the season, which could mean something, could mean nothing. In the second half, we're gonna have a fun little poke at the opponents for that particular game as well. And we're going to talk about the last two games right now and a bunch of other stuff as well in the second half. So before we dive into all that, reminder that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Plans start as low as $2 a month. You get ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, written posts, and a whole lot more. And come win, lose, whatever, playoffs or not, we have a ton of stuff getting ready to go over at the Patreon. So sign up today, patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Okay, so yes, Monday's game is a huge one. You're listening to this. This is going to be more or less your pregame episode, I'm assuming, if you're listening to this in the morning. But to get to this point, the Islanders had to pick up 3 big points this week. No, they lost a game, I should say, on Saturday against the Rangers, but the point that they got was huge. I thought they played a pretty good game. I guess we might as well start there because it's kind of fresh in the mind. They lost 3-2 in a shootout to the Rangers. Once an Islanders game goes into a shootout, like we all know what's going to happen, right? Like there's no way they're actually going to win it. But to get to that point, they I thought played pretty well, except for the power play, which we'll talk about in a minute, which was absolutely terrible. They took a 2-1 lead. The Rangers actually got off to a start with a shorthanded goal. Again, terrible power play. Brock Nelson scored twice. They played okay in the third period. I thought a little cautious to start, but they were keeping the Rangers at bay. Then, an Islanders favorite. Face-off loss immediately turns into a goal. And I don't know how many times I've seen this happen and how many goaltenders I've seen it happen to, but it was the worst possible guy to get the puck off that face-off was Artemi Panarin. He buries it. Game is tied. Overtime, everybody had chances. We had a Adam Fox, Vinny Trocheck 2-on-1, then a Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri 2-on-1. Somebody hit a post, I think, and then Igor Shesterkin made a sick windmill save on Matt Barzell. And then it was Panarin and Trocheck in the shootout, and the Islanders lost. But Ilya Sorokin made 41 saves. He was very good, looked very much like his former self. Igor Shesterkin made 33, which you would have thought by the broadcast was about 99, because every time he waved at the puck, it was like the greatest save in NHL history. Thank you very much, ESPN and Bob Wischusen. A lot of them were spectacular, though. But, this was, again, maybe a quintessential big point, in a loss. They got what they needed. It kept the Penguins and the Capitals and the Red Wings and the who am I forgetting about? The somebody else off the board for a little while, and kept everybody kind of away, and then set up this Monday game in which they can clinch. What did you think of the game against the Rangers? I know you weren't there, but I know you watched it as I did, biting our nails and just kind of vibrating with anxiety. But what did you think of this one? And did you think they played okay, or am I kind of giving them a pass? Maybe.
I agree. I think we've waited all season for we've had a ton of feel bad wins. We've had a lot of terrifying losses, a lot of gut wrenching losses, a lot of why am I doing this to myself losses. But we haven't had a feel good loss really. I don't think this season.
Right.
Especially maybe you could talk about the first few under Wah, like that Golden Knights game or
Yeah.
whatever. But even then, the Islanders had squandered so many points by that point and were in almost must-win mode from the time Wah got his first bagel on the island to now that we had there's no room for moral victories. And then they earned the opportunity to get one at the Garden. And in a lot of ways, it could end up being like the perfect outcome.
Yeah.
Getting a point this in that fashion, avoiding the Rangers in round one, maybe because that would have been terrible. Like just with
Right. Oh
this
my
week has
God.
been so exhausting. In terms of the we had to do a whole episode about Adam Pelech and Mika Zibanejad and Peter Laviolette and all sorts of stuff off of that game. So it's just been an exhausting week in that regard. And them winning that game in that fashion, I thought was almost too on the nose because the Islanders were, I thought, the more deserving team at 5-on-5. They kind of exposed a lot of the flaws that people have been talking about the Rangers
Yeah.
having.
I thought that too. I was like, a much better team than the Islanders is going to expose these guys. Like they're not.
Right.
Yes, they might win the President's Trophy, but I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what it is. It's just the Rangers. Every Ranger series is going to be determined by whether or not they get a good whistle.
Yep.
Against those kind of teams, and more likely than not they do because that's just what ends up happening, right? But so it was almost poetic that the Rangers end up winning that game. They had the big celebration and whatever, and you're like, well, I would be more concerned. That was for you guys. That was a feel bad win. That was a feel bad win for the Rangers. But for them, like that stuff doesn't even exist. It's just franchise tying whatever number of wins. I feel like the Rangers set a new franchise record for wins every season.
This is a franchise that's over 100 years old, by the way. It's like, wait, what?
And I thought the Islanders played really good game outside of the power play, and so there was a lot going on. Do you want to just keep talking about the game, or can I go into ESPN stuff, or should I save that for a little bit?
We can, I mean, whatever you want. We can go into ESPN
Well,
stuff.
I actually think it kind of blends into it, which is like the Rangers. I said it a couple weeks ago that the Rangers are much more of a style over substance situation, where the Islanders are, it's all about the journey. It's substance over style. I think that the fan base is like that, and maybe it's a little unfair to some Ranger fans, but they deserve it. They deserve it, right? Like this isn't a new take from anyone.
No.
And the part of the problem is that the broadcast is geared towards that.
Yeah.
It like feeds into that psyche of style is more important than substance. I guess maybe it makes better television for ESPN. There were so many things about that broadcast that were terrible, and it started from 9 a.m. when they're like, here's our lineup. Former Ranger captain Ryan Callahan is the color guy. Former Ranger captain Mark Messier in the booth. And I thought that was it. Subban was there. He's a devil, whatever. Right. And I thought those were the two Ranger connections. And then in the middle of the broadcast, they're like, Leah, this must be great for you because your grandpa won a Stanley Cup with the Rangers in 1940, Leah Hextall. And I'm like, so you have, and Steve Levy, of course, is a Ranger fan who grew up on Long Island. So you have a Ranger fan as the studio host. You got Mark Messier in studio with him. The broadcast is Bob Wischusen just yelling about Igor Shesterkin every chance he can. Ryan Callahan, former Ranger captain, who you could tell like he was given marching orders to hey, just remember, like, you gotta say nice things about the Islanders from here
Yes, got
every
that
once in a
vibe
while.
for
It
sure.
was like, almost like he had like an alarm set, like saying something nice about Pierre Engvall. And So you had that Callahan there, and then you had Leah Hextall in the booth, and the broadcast gets started during warmups, and you have the clip. I think we should put it in there. I think I
Right.
sent it to you. With Steve Levy asking Matt Barzal a question about maybe the most pointless storyline we've seen in the NHL since, I don't know. I can't think of a storyline that has less of an impact on the league than this one.
Good luck, man. As you look around the ice, I don't know if you see 73 in blue out there or not, but if Rempe plays, does it matter to you?
I mean, no, not really, to be honest with you. We're here to win a hockey game, and, yeah.
All right, go get
Cool.
it, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the time. Oh, there is 73.
Yeah, you send it to me, and it was the funniest thing I've ever heard. Like, Barzell is just like, I don't care. Like, what? Like,
Yeah.
why would he care? Like, what is he going to do? And our friend Ryan at Skates the Stakes posted a thing today about how, like, you know, he was joking. He said that, you know, all week Rangers fans had been in his mention saying, well, wait till Rempe gets out there on Saturday. And it's like, here's Rempe. And it was a picture of Mr. Beast, that YouTube guy, wearing a Bucks uniform at the Tampa Bay Bucks stadium and like signing autographs and stuff. Like, that's what he looked like.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize he was out there half the time. Like, he just didn't do anything.
No, the only way you knew he was out there was because Bob Wischusen was like, "Oh, here comes Rempe." Oh, and there was one play where someone threw a hit at, I think it was maybe Trocheck tried to hit Romanov, and it was like a reverse hit. So Romanov like flattened him, and he's like, "Whoa, what a hit by!" And he just moved on. He didn't want to acknowledge the fact that Trocheck just got flattened by Romanov because because Trocheck was coming in with steam,
Yeah.
and Romanov just caught him.
Didn't Barzell also like squash Rempe against the boards at one point?
Yeah.
It was like half his size.
Oh,
So yeah,
God.
no, I got all that. And then don't forget too, that during the first intermission, they had Mark Messier come out with the Stanley Cup in celebration of the Rangers Stanley Cup that they won 30 years ago. And I tweeted about this. Literally, ESPN celebrates this cup more than the Rangers do. Like, they have a reason to celebrate that cup. ESPN does not. They just do it because Mark Messier is on the payroll. And it's like, again, we've talked about this. All right, fine. At least PK Subban wasn't asleep this time during an Islanders game. So I guess we've made it that far. But like, I'm the customer, man. Like, half of your customers are not fans of this team. Like, what about us? I hate saying that, but what about us?
Well, it's also not in a game in the middle of November. This is the Islanders' most important game of the season. It's against their hated rival, and this is what we get served up. It's on ABC too. Like, it's not on ESPN Plus somewhere. This is a nationally televised game on ABC, and we have to hear all this stuff that, you know, if we make fun of the hypothetical casual fan, because I just don't think that they are out there just wandering the sports abyss without something to watch on a Saturday afternoon where the Masters is on and baseball is going on, etc. But if that hypothetical casual fan did turn on the TV, they would be like, "Wow, this number 73 on the Rangers, is he like a famous rookie? Is he maybe number one overall pick? Is he battling to win MVP? What's his deal? Did he cure cancer? I don't know what's going on here." And
he's just freakishly large mutant. Basically, that's it. But I love how
who doesn't have any effect on the game per Matt Barzal.
I also love how they were positioning, because you were right. For the Islanders, this was a hugely important game. And again, I don't want to gloss over the point that they got, because that was a huge point. Like, in all seriousness, that was, we're very sarcastic here, but in all seriousness, that was a huge point. But like, they kept going back to the Rangers storyline, which was, well, they're gunning for the President's Trophy. And well, yeah, okay, that's true. Like, come on, like, one team, you know, looking for this piece of hardware that most teams probably don't care about, versus a team that may or may not make the playoffs at all after this insane roller coaster season. I like that graphic they did. I don't know if you saw that on the roller, like they made the Islander season like a literal roller coaster ride. I thought that actually kind of summed up very well what the season's been like. But I just found it funny. I'm like, that's their story, really? They're going with it, but I guess it is what it is. So.
It was brutal. It was a brutal experience, and it makes it worse, right? Because we're already bricking it, and during this whole time, you're thinking, okay, I know that the Islanders probably match up better with the Rangers in round one than the Hurricanes, but is that 8% bump in like win probability worth, no matter how the series goes, this? Is it
Yeah, no.
worth this? And I have no right or wrong answer. You can say I'm like a huge loser for thinking that way, because the players don't. Like, I'm sure that,
Right.
Matt Barzal and Bo Horvath would relish a chance to upset the Rangers in round one. I'm sure of it. But on our side, on the fan side of the window, it's a completely different experience, because I'll tell you what, as annoying as Steve Levy was asking Matt Barzal that question, after he hangs up the headpiece, he doesn't have to hear another ESPN voice for the rest of the game. He doesn't have to hear Ryan Callahan talking to, when the Islanders scored their first goal that Nelson bumped in off of Shesterkin. They were talking about Shesterkin catching the puck like for 30 seconds after they didn't even acknowledge that the Islanders scored. They're like, "Wow, Igor actually catches that puck when it goes over the line. How crazy is that? That is something else." Like the Islanders are celebrating right now. Like, what are you guys focusing on? This is so bizarre.
That's why I was saying before, like when I saw that he had only made 33 saves, I'm like, no, that can't be right, because the way they talked about him, it sounded like the Islanders had 50 shots on goal, but they didn't.
Right.
Sorokin had more saves. It's just kind of funny.
It was everything.
Right.
And nobody would ever do it, but it would be the perfect, teaching moment to just have somebody like Elliot Friedman or Kevin Bieksa or whoever just say, I want you to just watch this whole broadcast. I want you to go in. I'm going to tell you it's Islanders Rangers. I'll give you the situation. I just want you to watch this broadcast and understand what we're dealing with this other rights holder.
Yeah.
Like, I would love for that, because and maybe they get the feed, but they're not paying attention to these minute, needless details like we are that are pissing us off to no end. Because they're not fans. Like, they're not picking up that Bob Wischusen is losing his mind about Igor Shesterkin like freezing a puck or something. It's
Right.
tough. And Sorokin's on the other end, just keeping, very business casual, 42, whatever he was, 39, 41 saves.
Yeah.
But
41,
and what I feel like a lot of ESPN broadcasts have taken away the joy out of a performance like that for me, since they moved over, but I didn't let that one do it. I was just so thrilled with how they went about getting that point. It felt very 2021-ish. It was like the Islanders had a job to do and they just went and did it. And that job was go into the Garden, get a point by any means necessary, and just play their game. And it was almost, ESPN called that game as if it was like the Islanders or the Rangers were just playing, like hosting, like and the Islanders just happened to be the guest at this party that they were hosting. But in reality, I thought the Islanders were the team that completely dictated the terms there. It was sort of like ESPN. It was, man, how lucky are the Islanders to get to play the Rangers at the Garden? But to me, I was like, man, this is the Islanders game. Like, this is an Islanders game. So, I was quite thrilled. I was very happy with the way that they talked about it afterwards too. That they saw the same things that we did. And also, wait, we're missing the biggest part of this whole thing. The Rangers are making this huge deal about getting the win. They're making this gigantic deal that they score another third period comeback win, another blown loss for the Islanders, whatever. No quit in New York. First 5-on-5 goal in 3 games. They break that curse, monkey off the back. The Islanders were missing their number one defenseman. Like, it took
that.
Yeah, like there was no mention of it. They're like, right. Oh yeah, when the power play was going, sure, but they're like, there was no. Is it a little peculiar that the Rangers are having this much trouble against the Islanders when Sebastian Aho is playing? And I'm not sure he's got blades on his skates. He might have forgot his blades because of the way he's playing. But isn't that a little concerning that it'd be akin to the Islanders playing and the Rangers coming up, with a great effort without Adam Fox? Like, it's very similar to that. So, I completely tip my cap to the Islanders for that point.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and that's a perfect segue to talk about the absolutely terrible power plays that we saw during this game. That they mentioned Dobson in the beginning, but then, like you said, they just completely forgot about him. And I really do wish that somebody would watch this that's not us, that's not an Islanders fan, and might come away with the same, but watch it with an idea of like what an Islanders fan might think of this and come away with being like, hey, you guys are right. This is really not objective at all, but whatever. But yeah, so Noah Dobson was hurt. He's still out. He still didn't play today. I don't even know what the injury is, just upper body. maybe, I don't know, he might have gotten crunched or something at some point in not the Montreal game, but the game before.
Yep. Well, this
Yeah.
is the hockey gods, right? Like
Yeah.
we had a whole podcast about how the Rangers were basically spitting in the face of the hockey gods who have handed them everything this season. And then Dobson crunches Trocheck with what was a penalty, whatever. And what happens? He gets smited on his next shift. Like so, it was like the Rangers still got away with it in that way. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, you got to be kidding me that this team still catches that break.
Right.
Even though like they are the ones who are acting like a 6-year-old who didn't get what they wanted for dinner or something after that game.
I did read that Trocheck felt very bad about blowing off, blowing his stack on Kelly Sutherland in that game. Because like he said Sutherland's, I think I read it in the Post. He said Sutherland's a good ref, and he felt bad about going ape shit like that. It's like, yeah, okay, well, he did, so I guess he didn't feel that bad. But yeah, so with or without Dobson, the Islanders' power play has been pretty lousy lately, and it was particularly abysmal in this game against the Rangers. They went 0 for 4, I believe, might have even been worse. They, whatever the number was, they were 0 for, and not only that, I mean, that's one thing, but like they gave up a Ryan Lindgren breakaway, a 3-on-1. This is during, by the way, a 4-minute power play. Capo Caco got a double minor towards the end of the first period. They basically start the second period with a 3-minute plus power play, and again they give up a 3-on-1 right away, a Lindgren breakaway. Braden Schneider scores a shorthanded goal to give the Rangers the lead. Pierre Engvall thought he had a goal in the dying seconds of this power play, but it ended up getting called back because somebody, I think Paul Mary, was like, a foot and a half offsides or something like that, barely even a foot, a skate blade offside. But like I said, Nelson got it in to tie the game and then take the lead. It's so funny but meanwhile, they didn't give up a power play goal in this game, and their penalty killing has looked a lot better lately. And so again, we're getting the reverse. Like all of a sudden, the penalty kill is not too bad, but the power play is dead. And so this is what we talked about before. Why can we never see the Islanders have both of these special teams working good, well at the same time? It's really, really, really funny. And I don't understand what it is, because I don't know what they're doing differently that they weren't doing before. Yeah, they're pretty stagnant, but they were always kind of stagnant a little bit. I don't know if they're getting Horvat involved enough. He seems to be pretty good, in that bumper spot, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but maybe this is just because we've been saying lately, maybe the hockey gods are listening to us. And like I've said, you could win in the playoffs without a good power play, but you're going to be in a lot of trouble without a good penalty kill. And if we had to flip it and get a good penalty kill and the power play doesn't work, well, maybe that's what it takes to get out of round one, or whether against the Hurricanes or the Rangers, whoever it is. But it was pretty bad. And, again, going 0 for is one thing, but when they gave up that 3-on-1, I texted you. I was like, come on, really? We're doing a 3-on-1 now? A shorthanded 3-on-1? There's only one other guy in the ice. Why didn't he get involved? What's he doing? Lazy bum. He's back in the other zone. But it was pretty demoralizing to see. The fact that they shrugged it off and came back to take the lead at the end of the period was actually kind of impressive in a way.
Yeah. I've never seen a shorthanded goal like that before.
Right.
Where a 3-on-1 rush where the late man gets his own rebound because he feels safe enough to stop and be like, right. If I don't care if we give up a 4-on-2 going the other way, they'll screw it up. I'm pretty sure that guy's name is Aho. I've never seen him before in my life, so I don't know what he's doing on a power play in this type of high stakes environment, but
it's pretty funny.
So I've never seen that before, and it was inevitable. Like that goal was coming, which is crazy to say about shorthanded when you're on the power play. That's crazy to say, but it was coming to the point where when Adam Pelech got hauled down in the third period,
penalty shot,
and they gave him a penalty shot. I was like, my friend was like, "Wouldn't you rather the power play there?" And he watched the whole game and smart dude, and I said, absolutely not. They would be he's like, you don't want to just kill the 2 minutes. I said, they're not going to kill the 2 minutes. He says, even if they rag it around. I said, they've scored a penalty kill, shorthanded goal. They looked more dangerous on the penalty kill than at 5-on-5. Let's just let this happen. Plus it would have been hilarious if Pelech had scored.
I actually kind of was very confident that he would, because that's just the exact type of situation where defensemen usually score. Like they pull out, remember the Marek Malik shootout goal? Like they just pull out, Chara has scored some sick, weird goals and stuff like that. Like defensemen are hiding these skills. They don't get to use that often, but they do it in practice all the time. I thought that Pelech would have done that, but he opted for just a straight shot. And
Yep.
loved it. So what are you going to
do? And yeah, but the power play has just been terrible without Dobson. It looks like they changed it back to kind of loading up that first power play unit and going with Riley at the top rather than Aho, who, I thought Aho had a very adventurous game. Him and Bortuzzo they're hilarious on the ice, man, because they're adventures for the complete opposite reasons. You got Aho, who has now tried 2 games in a row deep into the third period to toe drag through his own legs in the slot, trying to beat 2 opposing defensemen. There was a game a couple weeks ago where he did it and then they didn't score on the play. And everyone's like, holy shit. And then since then, he's tried that play like 3 times at the worst opportunities. He's always flailing over the ice. He's got the puck a lot. He's a good skater, etc. And then you got Bortuzzo, who you just never want to have the puck. You're like, look, buddy, you're doing a great job as long as you don't have the puck. I'm going to cut the blade off your stick. You can use the stick, but I just don't want it to have a blade on it. Because as soon as he gets the puck, you're like, God, where's this thing going? Hopefully it just ices it or something, because it's an adventure. But they're both adventurous in endearing ways, I think. Like there's something warm, and it's almost like tonic for the soul to watch these 2 guys play, because you're like, these guys are so far out of their depths here. We're in such a huge game, and I'm watching Sebastian Aho and I'm watching Robert Bortuzzo play these crucial minutes, these crucial moments of this game. And it really brings me back to some other harrowing times as an Islander fan, where you'd be watching Brian Straight, or you'd be,
oh my God,
you'd be watching the early days of Noah Dobson with Andy Green, or Trotz wouldn't let Dobson, come out of the locker room in that situation. But Andrew McDonald, going back a little bit further,
Sam Bolduc, man.
Sam Bolduc last year. Sam Bolduc last year. It's there's something about it that's so nice, and really kind of awakens the senses. But look, they're Islanders. Bortuzzo, man, he reminds me a lot of Brad Lukowich in a lot of ways, and except Lukowich, of course, was traded in the middle of the season before the playoff push, and now we got Bortuzzo kind of for the opposite side. So it was almost as if he took all of Brad Lukowich's skill set and turned it, even the way he looks, like on the ice. Yeah, like it's messy.
I am trying to remember all of Bortuzzo's shifts, because we're definitely going to be doing a Weird Islanders episode about him probably very shortly. So I want to try and remember as much of it as we can. One other quick thing before we move on to the previous game before this. I thought Hudson Fasching looked pretty good on the line with Palmieri and Nelson. And in fact, he basically set up, I don't know if he was trying for a wraparound goal or just trying to get the puck to Nelson, but he came around the back of the net and basically fed Nelson for the what was the go-ahead goal with about 30 seconds left in the second period. And he looked pretty good. I mean, Fasching's kind of been a bit of a lost guy this year. He was so good last year, never really got on track this year. He's sat for a long time. Kyle McLean comes up and I don't know if maybe takes his spot, but fills a very similar role, and he's kind of gotten a little bit lost. But Simon Holmstrom sat, Fasching came in. I thought he played very well. So it was good to see. And again, you just nailed it right on the head. And we've seen so many feel bad wins that this was kind of a feel good loss. And it's kind of a weird, normally we have a couple of these in a season, but this year, this is the first one I could think of that they had. So we go back to the previous game, which has been a lot of feel bad losses that we've seen against the Montreal Canadiens, a team that has not been good for a very long time. And yet somehow when they play the Islanders, they look like the 77. I don't know what it is about these guys, why we keep making every Canadiens goaltender look like Ken Dryden or Patrick Waugh, if you will. And the same thing happened here, but the Islanders actually pulled out a huge, impressive, necessary 3-2 overtime win. I missed the most of this because, again, my daughter's school play was this week, but I managed to come home just in time to watch the third period. I literally turned on the TV just as Casey Cizikas had tied the game, and it was very exciting in the third period. The Islanders, in this case, played very well from what I gathered. They threw a ton of shots on Sam Montembeault, but again, he just gobbled up everything. And I don't know what it was about the shots or what it is. Maybe they're just frightened by the logo. Who knows what it is, but they managed to make to overtime, which again would have been huge in and of itself. But Kyle Palmieri scores in OT. He kind of like threaded was a weird angle shot, and the puck kind of zipped in between Montembeau's mask and the post, just before he got over there. I didn't even think it was going to go in, and I heard Brendan yelling that he had scored. I was like, oh my God, how about that? But it was huge because the Penguins had won that night. And this is another thing you haven't seen in a long time. Semyon Varlamov got a win by making 12 saves. That was it. 12 saves. The 2 goals he let in, kind of weird, to be honest with you. One of them kind of snuck through his pads and didn't really, it was Cole Caulfield. It's kind of slipped through his pads. I don't even know if he shot it. He just kind of directed it in, and it kind of stuck in the skirt and the inside of the net, and nobody really knew it was in until Caulfield mentioned it. But that's pretty cool to get a win with 12 saves. And yeah, they needed overtime, but you know what? Going back and looking at it, they played pretty well. Although, again, over 4 in the power play, they gave up 3 shorthanded chances. They could have given up 3 shorthanded goals, which sucks. But I mean, the high danger chances for were 20-5 in the Islanders' favor. The expected goals for were 3.36 to 1.09, which is kind of a butt kicking. So the Islanders did what they needed to do in this game, which is Sam Montembeau, again, pretended like he was Ken Dryden, and they needed to go overtime. But this was a pretty impressive win also against a team that's season has been over since basically November. You were at this one, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's torture.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that great about it going in. Like I said, I've given up on trying to figure out how I feel about these games this season, because it's just such a once the game starts, it's you lose sight of basically everything else in life because of the way that this team has been. And this game was no different. Islanders start well, give up one mistake. It's in the back of their net, and you can already hear them going to their tried and true fashion. Their tried and true cliches after the game. It felt like every mistake we gave up that we made ended up in the back of our net. We tried hard, and I was trying really hard to keep those thoughts out of my mind. But this was the start of the Pierre Engvall looking like a very, very competent hockey player again. And if he's really good, if he plays like he has the past couple games, the Islanders all of a sudden have something a little different going for them this year that they haven't had all year, which is nice. But then they give the lead back up, like you said, Cizikas scoring. From that point on, I was like, this game it was torture. That third period felt like it lasted an hour and a half, and it's crazy because the game before that was the Ranger game where it felt like the same thing, and it's just been that way. The Blackhawks game felt like that, and it's this team is just not able to give you any breathing room lately. It's killing me. It's killing all of us. I'm sure a lot of us will pay for this in one way or another, and it's horrible, man. That game was so hard to watch. I know the Islanders played really well according to all the numbers and stuff, but they were not able to give us a chance to catch our breath in the crowd, and that was really tough to watch. I had a great angle to the Palmieri goal, so I saw it go in, and I was with my dad, and we were like, we got to get out of here. We just got to get out of here. And we did. And the way that the scoreboard has gone the past week or so, it's been the Islanders have kind of been taking care of their business, but a few teams everyone's just hanging around, and because the Islanders don't have any of the tiebreakers, there's been no really breathing room. It's almost like a metaphor for their games. Like, we're in the third period, the Islanders have a slight lead over everybody, and now we got to defend like hell and make sure we don't blow this third period lead. And I know that the numbers say 95% chance to make it, but we've seen this Islanders team do some funky stuff all season.
That means literally nothing.
It means nothing. and so when I left that game, I thought, okay, just getting a point here is huge. And then it dawned on me how big it was to get the second one after they got it, because I was just trying so hard to appreciate the fact that they got a point against the Montreal Canadiens, the second to last team in the conference at home. I was trying to make that convince myself of that being good enough. And I'm just so happy they got another one, because you look at where they are now, they're essentially like a game and a half up on everybody, like the Capitals and the Red Wings, the Penguins. Obviously, the Flyers can't catch them anymore, but those other three teams have to really win out to have a chance. Whereas the Islanders, they just got to win a game, And it's thanks to Kyle Palmieri's goal that night, and of course the point here against the Rangers. So yeah, not too much to complain about. A lot to be afraid of, but nothing to complain about.
Yeah, we should also mention JG Pajot fighting Brendan Gallagher.
Yes.
I don't know if that was because of the Pellick thing from a few months ago. Maybe JG's got some lingering anger from his Ottawa days. Maybe Gallagher said something to him. I don't know. He got in a bunch of shots, which was nice, and then he ended up kind of on his back. So it's kind of a fight that everybody thinks they won.
And this was the game that, of course, Dobson gets hurt. Nobody knows how. Like, I guess everyone's assuming it was that random slash from Romanov, which looked so pedestrian that I can't wrap my mind around it. But also the real concern in that first period, nobody noticed Dobson was out because everybody was so scared when Matt Barzal got hit.
Yeah.
By Michael Pezzetta. So this game it had some really bad it had some bad juju to it, and I couldn't shake that feeling until Palmieri scored. Maybe that's what it was, that it felt like that game there was something sinister in the air that night in the building, but Kyle Palmieri got it all away with that goal, and he's been awesome. So
yeah, he's been awesome since I called him out for not being good. Like what was he had like 15 goals or something at some point, and I was like, come on, where has this guy been? And he could end up with 30 if he has a sick last couple of games here before the end of the regular season. So yeah, just games against the Habs are so frustrating. Like again, I don't know what it is. The Islanders play them with such reverence and such they make them look like world beaters, and meanwhile then the next night you'll watch them play somebody else and they'll get shellacked in the first period 5-0. You're like, well, wait hold on a second. Sam Montembeault, I don't know what it is. If they ever see Sam Montembeault in a playoff series, don't even watch, because he's just going to shut them out for 4 straight games. It's kind of crap. I don't know what it is about this guy, but I don't know.
I also one other thing I wanted to bring up about the crowd that night. Of course, there was a ton of Canadiens fans.
Right.
Saw a Quebec Remparts jersey in the crowd as well.
Nice.
And then I saw some guy like getting heckled by some Islander fans being like, go back to Canada. And he's like, what the hell? And I was like, don't even listen to them. Like, we love you guys here. And he's like, and I love being here. And I love your coach. I am here because I love your coach. And I'm like, I know. I love my coach too. He's the best. And we were just in like his broken English and me. I was like, I still can't believe he's here. He's like, I know. What is he doing here? I don't know. Like, I want to know what he does all day. Like when he wakes up and he's on Long Island. He's like, this is a real place. Like, what's going on? I'm like, I guess I got to go to King Cullen to get my food, my grocery shopping done.
Right. I like how people are like, go back to Canada. Like these people, like half of those people don't live already on Long Island or live in New York City or live in, Westchester. Like it's okay. It's the Canadiens. Like they have a lot of fans. Like they don't all just bust in from Quebec City. They could come from all over the place. But well, I'm glad that guy hopefully had a good time. I mean, again, I didn't see much of it, but from what I watched, it seemed pretty tense. And again, I just got him just at the right time, so it was pretty good. Okay, we are going to take a break. And we're going to come back. And like I said, we're going to look ahead to the Devils and Penguins games this week. We've got a fun bit on the Penguins that we're going to do. And then also we're going to talk a little Coyotes, who had a pretty eventful week and a weekend too. And I feel bad for their fans, but we'll talk it out from our perspective, because we know a little bit about that too. So meet us on the other side. Thanks. And now a word from our sponsors. First is VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, mugs, and more, featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey also carries our Al Arbor and The Island merch, and our portion of the sales always go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. Use the code ANXIETY20 to save 20% off an order of 2 items. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a 2022 Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly. As I said right off the top, the Islanders have a huge game on Monday night in New Jersey against the Devils. Jack Hughes is out for the season, if I'm not mistaken. They have, in their last 10, they are 4-5-1. They lost their last game. They just want to get this over. This is actually their last game of the season. This is it for the Devils. And then they got to sit around and wait for a week while everybody else plays and sets up playoff series that they're not going to be in. That said, the Islanders are 0-2 against the Devils this year. And I hate that because, this is, a big one. They've had their number, but again, that was a team that was very different than this one. And I think I'm going to give the Islanders a bit of credit and say that they know exactly what the situation is. I listened to Waz press conference this morning after practice. He talked very openly about how they know that if they win, they are in. And so they need to come out and play that way. And that's fine and good. But we've also seen this team struggle at starts. I mean, again, the start against the Rangers on Tuesday night wasn't great before they came back and won it. So, I hope that Prudential Center is packed to the gills with Islanders fans. Sounds like there's going to be a lot there, which is great. But this team needs to come out strong, stay strong, and don't stop until that game is won and done. And then you can just walk out and know that Tuesday's game against the Penguins, which we'll talk about in a minute, means very little to the Islanders. We'll have to see. By the way, breaking news, the Hurricanes beat the Blackhawks tonight, which means they are just 1 point behind the Rangers. So both the Rangers and Hurricanes each have one game left. So if the Rangers win, if they beat Ottawa, I believe it's tomorrow night, Monday night, if not it's Tuesday, then they will clinch the Metro and the President's Trophy. If they don't, and the Hurricanes win their next game against Columbus, they can jump into first place, win the President's Trophy, and that would set up an Islanders-Rangers playoff series. So we're not out of the woods yet, unfortunately, but a lot of moving parts, and I don't want to think about that stuff until the Islanders are done. The goal is 92 points, get there on Monday, and we can move on. We talked about it a minute ago, but anything else you want to thinking about when it comes to this huge game against the Devils? Oh, by the way, I just noticed somebody talked about before. If you want a piece of Devils Islanders history to latch onto, I got 2 words for you: Wade Dublowitz. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's about all I got right now.
Yeah, no, you can hear it. It's funny to hear. You saw that people saying like, "Oh, the Islander fans are going to invade the Prudential Center," and you can hear Howie Rose say, "It sounds like Nassau Coliseum East," or whatever he said that night. That this game is terrifying, but they've all been terrifying. So it's just another day at the office here for Islander fans. It's not fun to be here. It's been hell. It's almost over though. Only 2 games left of this just absolute torturous season. Who knows how it ends up? But what we know right now is it's been hell to get here. And now they're going to take on the Devils, and it'll be hell against the Devils. And it's funny in a way that I think about game 1 of the playoffs a little bit here and there. I try not to think about it or get ahead of myself, but like, it's gonna be a piece of cake. I might not even watch it. I might just choose not to watch game 1 because it won't even come close to the adrenaline rush that these last 33 games of the season have provided. So like, it's a game 1. You mean game 83 of this absolute nightmare season that's just tugged at every bit of your soul and your psyche. Maybe we should just not watch it and just check the score after, and if they lose, whatever. They lost game 1 of a playoff series. It's not going to be worse than losing 6 in a row after you won 6 in a row to completely end your season. I can tell you that. And
right.
But we got to get there first. And tomorrow's going to be agony. It's just going to be complete agony all day. There's of course a lot of scoreboard watching that will be going on. Well, I guess I should put it this way: like I hope that we just don't have to even consider the scoreboard at all. I hope it's not 0-0 after 10 minutes. I hope it's 4-0 Islanders, and all the other teams are looking up, being like, "God damn it!" That's one team in, so there's only one spot left. Right. But we know it's not going to be that easy. So I'm terrified.
It's not too late to sign Isla up for something on Monday night, so you don't have to watch this. Find some kind of swimming lessons or mommy and me class or something, and you're like, I'm going to take you. What about mommy? Well, I'm going to take you instead. Something like that. So it's gonna be torturous. But the Islanders can, for once, guys, I'm begging, please make it easy on us, just for once. It's been a long season. It's been up and down. We don't want to look at the past. Can't change it, but if you guys can just get in there and take care of business in a strong way, we will all very much appreciate it. And I'm not saying we'll forget about what's gone on the first 81 games of the season or 80 games of the season, but will certainly make them go down a lot easier, particularly when we look back on the season a while later. So that's Monday. I almost don't even want to look ahead to Wednesday's game, but we kind of have to. It's the last one against the Penguins. Now, the Penguins did not have a great night on Saturday. They lost in overtime to who was it? Detroit, I think.
No, Boston, because
Boston. Yeah, right. They lost big to Boston.
Yeah,
They lost 6-3.
Yeah, David Pastrnak took a slap shot at the end of the game.
That's right. They beat Detroit in overtime earlier,
yes.
Which was a big deal. But yeah, that loss against the Bruins really, really hurt their chances. They have 2 games left. I don't know who they're playing next. We can find out. I think it's somebody actually pretty good. Oh, Nashville.
Pittsburgh plays Nashville and then us. Yeah,
right. They're hosting Nashville on Monday, who have cooled off a little bit, but can still do some damage. So,
and they still have something to kind of play for.
Yeah, right.
Because Vegas won tonight. Like these are the layers that we talk about all the time. The difference between Islander fans and Ranger fans. Like I was here today rooting for Vegas against Colorado, and Vegas comes back and wins that game in the third period. And the reason I'm rooting for them is I'm like, oh God, if Vegas can win this game, that means that Nashville has an incentive to beat the Penguins on Monday night, as if like these professional athletes don't want to go out there and win the game. I'm in my own head so much about it. I almost wanted to thank the Golden Knights and call them and say, guys, thank you so much for for giving the Nashville Predators to play for something to play for against the Pittsburgh Penguins on behalf of the New York Islanders, and then call the cops or something.
For the Predators, a win against the Penguins would mean basically a matchup with the Canucks, who are leading the Pacific Division right now. Now, if the Golden Knights, who have 2 games left, win out again, then they could and the Predators lose on Monday, which is their last game of the season, they could jump over them, and that means that Nashville will end up playing Dallas, who are quite a bit better, frankly. I mean, to me, they're a Stanley Cup contender. Nobody's talking about Dallas, so that's a huge deal for the Predators. So they're definitely going to want to win.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a great point. Yeah,
and plus, I said to this is sick, but during that game, I was like, you know what? The Predators will want to get to 100 points. They're at 99 right now. They'll want to get to 100 points. Like I'm having this conversation with myself today. It has nothing to do with the Islanders really, but if you've been through what we've been through, like everything kind of matters. Like there's some weird voodoo to be found anywhere you look in this league when it comes to the Islanders right now.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah. So I mean, while the teams are set, there's still a lot of jockeying going on in the Western Conference. So we'll have to see. I mean, even Colorado, which had a very bad weekend. They lost 7-0 Saturday night against Winnipeg, and then blew a 3-0 lead to Vegas today to lose in overtime. So I would not want to be playing the Avs, but they're playing the Jets as of right now. If the season ended right now, but Winnipeg's got 2 games, the Avs have 1. So we'll see. So there's a lot going on outside of the Islanders world, but this is clearly where we're focused. And the Penguins, if the Islanders win, I think the Penguins might, depending on what happens with the Caps, and Red Wings and Flyers, the Penguins still might have a shot at the playoffs. So their season won't necessarily be over, but Metro position 3 will be locked up, and that'll be the end of that. So when we talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins, we have to talk about, of course, Kyle Dubas, who is the man now in charge of the Penguins and has had such a wonderful first season that his team is scraping by with the likes of the New York Islanders to make the playoffs. And so we have this article here that we wanted to do, and we wanted to wait till now. It came out on the 8th, but I think it's still very good and very relevant and very funny in our context. And shout out to listener Joe Muccia, who came up with the title that had eluded both of us. I don't know why, but Joe, you nailed it. So thank you very much. So we are proud to present the first ever spinoff of Master Leafs Theater with Master Pens Theater. Okay, yeah, new music and everything. It's Master Pens Theater. And we have a great one here. This is from The Athletic and our pal Josh Yohe. And you sent this to me, right? I think you were the one, or did I send this to you? I forget.
But yeah, it made the rounds, and I'm sure that I don't know if you sent this to me or I sent it to you, but it was inevitably going to end up where it is right now.
Yeah.
And I do want to say right off the jump, like this is nothing to do with counting our chickens or anything like that. I'm not trying to tempt fate about this or anything. The my angle here actually is different. Like I'd be thrilled if the Penguins made the playoffs and played the Rangers, because I think that they could really give the Rangers a huge problem in that first round. And the Ranger fans have quietly been like, I don't want to play the Penguins. They don't want to play the Islanders either, of course, but they don't want to play the Penguins because of the Crosby situation and whatever, and knowing that they got away with one against the Penguins the last time out. So this has nothing to do with that. It's just an absolutely absurd piece of content to be coming out and out of nowhere too. Like the Penguins go on this great run to get themselves back in the playoff race, and the first person that gets the credit is the general manager who traded away Jake Gensel. We always use Jim Nill as like the kind of antithesis to Kyle Dubas. And like if Jim Nill is the Penguins GM, this article is not even close to on anybody's radar.
No,
it's so good. So yeah, Josh Yeo, he really just picking up the mantle from our good friends of the podcast, Jonas Siegel and Luke Fox Jukebox from Toronto. So I'm pretty excited to get into this.
Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna read this out?
Yes. All right. I'm gonna do a little jumping around here, but you'll get the point. And of course, make sure you don't subscribe to The Athletic to read this kind of stuff, but it's there if you want it. The title is Suddenly, Here Come the Penguins, and Kyle Dubas deserves some credit. And of course, there's a picture of him, because there's more pictures of this man on the internet than any front office executive in any sport, which is just absolutely crazy.
There's a picture of him from the draft with the yellow background.
Oh, yes.
He's like holding his lapels. I've seen that picture probably 15 times on 15 different articles this year between Sportsnet, The Athletic, and other places. I don't know why. It's just like, it's like an oil painting that these guys will have in their house or something.
It's a Renaissance
Right.
painting. Okay. Without further ado, here come the Pittsburgh Penguins. Suddenly, hockey's most compelling story as Sidney Crosby and fellow graybeard Evgeny Malkin continue their stunning attempt to will them into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Here comes Kyle Dubas, too, right back to the mecca of hockey where his Penguins were last embarrassed in a 7-0 loss in December. Things are a little different now. As Dubas and the Penguins arrive in Toronto for one of the biggest regular season games in recent Penguins memory, they are all right now. Maybe it's time to give the whiz kid running the Penguins some credit.
Yeah, because that's definitely not what anybody's been
No,
doing.
I mean, when's this guy ever got any credit?
Yeah.
All right, we'll skip to the bottom now, and it's talking about Dubas's process. He stayed true to himself, but he also stayed true to the Penguins. He didn't blow them up last summer or during the season because he saw something, perhaps something no one else saw. It's a delicate balance, almost an impossible one. Win, but don't give up the future? Almost impossible. Convince a team to keep playing hard as you go into sell mode? Even harder. Yet, Dubas appears on the verge of pulling off both. I mean, I don't think this guy's laced up skates yet, but I mean, he traded Gensel because that was always the plan, in retrospect. But he didn't obliterate his team because he believes something worth maintaining remained. He stayed loyal to Mike Sullivan during a time in which the fan base has increasingly been more vocal in its disapproval of the two-time Cup champion. Low-hanging fruit, Dubas always says when it's suggested that removing Sullivan from his post might be a good idea. The book on Dubas in Pittsburgh remains in its early chapters. We will see if he can co-opt a championship out of the final Crosby years, and we'll see if he can build a winner after the hockey chief of the world calls it quits. The hockey chief of the world. He's starting to prove that he very much is the man to mold the Penguins moving forward. Preserving the future while giving a group the latitude and resources to compete isn't supposed to be possible. What? But the Penguins are on their way. A victory in Toronto would go a long way to sending the Penguins back into the playoffs. All eyes and cameras will be on Dubas during the Penguins Maple Leafs game. They are. They always are. This will always be the case. His celebrity in Toronto isn't evaporating anytime soon. You could say that 1,000,000 times over, buddy.
Yeah.
But dig a little deeper than the glasses. The occasional thrown water bottle and the emotional streak that sometimes encompasses Dubas, and you'll see he's doing good work in Pittsburgh. The degree of difficulty is immense. Even someone as smart as Dubas would probably struggle to calculate it. Make no mistakes, however. He's the man for the job, and he's quietly starting to prove it. After a recent win in Washington, Dubas received congratulations for the victory and the Penguins' ever-improving play. He offered a faint smile. "We can always get better," he said. That's always his response to a congratulatory comment. It seems perfectly appropriate. He was thrown into the fire 10 months ago. It would appear that Dubas is starting to figure out the Penguins. His team is getting better. So, too, is the guy calling the shots.
This is seriously an incredible piece of content, and so glad you included the ending too, because my favorite part of this is he offered a faint smile. "We
Yes.
can always get better," he said.
Josh Cloak is up there in Toronto reading that and just having an absolute meltdown.
But like, you're telling me that there isn't a general manager in the league that says that all the time? I've heard Lou Lamoriello say that you're telling me that Jim Rutherford never said, "Well, we can always get better," when they were winning 2 straight cups? I guarantee he told that to these guys, but when it comes out of the
Jim
mouth
Nill's
of Dubas,
Stars are probably, they
Right.
have the best record in the Western Conference. They've already clinched it, and he's probably saying, "Job's not done. We can always
Right.
do better. Bigger games coming."
Barry Trotz is saying that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, this is the Dubas thing. He does everything that every other general manager does, and it's seen as the greatest thing in the world. And if some other old guy did it, oh man, well, you can't get anything out of this guy. He just tells you nothing. No, he says the same thing that this other guy does, but this guy's younger and in glasses. So again, the old Elvis Costello paradigm still remains.
There's a great clip on that went around too of a reporter in Toronto before that game asking William Nylander if the reporter said, "Hey man, does it, this game aside, do you want to see the Penguins because of Spez and Kyle Dubas?" Or no, he says, I can't even say it like that because I got to pay the right respect here. There was a reporter that said to William Nylander, aside from this game, is there a part of you that is rooting for the Penguins because of Kyle and Spez? And Nylander, in a similar way to Matt Barzal, kind of just gave a look and was like, "Wait, I can't believe that this guy just asked that question." And then was like, "No,
Right? Yeah, he wasn't.
We want to win."
Right. He wasn't asking outright if they were going to throw the game for these guys, but he certainly wasn't not asking it either.
Right. Exactly. He was like kind of he's like, "Man, I should probably put this thought in his head." So he realizes we can get Kyle into the playoffs too. It would be just like he's still here.
That's the kind of thing. I love my wife dearly, but she's not like a sports person. Like, she doesn't really get it. Like, Emily, is a fan. Like, she gets it, right? But Anna Maria, my wife, doesn't really get it. And so I've talked to her about things like this, like, "Oh, well, if the Islanders win this game, then they'll go to the playoffs." And she's like, "Well, maybe the other team will let them win." And I'm always like, doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. These guys don't give a shit about what my team wants. They want what they want. These guys are playing for their jobs next year. They don't care if my team.
They don't care that Kyle and Spez are here.
This isn't charity time.
It's another great thing is that like he uses his Dubas's first name and then Jason Spez's nickname. Like, who is? I'm so mad that we still haven't found out who it was. I mean, of course, there's. I know for a fact it wasn't Luke Fox Jukebox because I know his voice so well at this point, and I know Jonas Siegel's voice pretty well. But whoever it was, man, that question was incredible. The answer was so good.
I know.
So that's definitely a clip worth trying to track down. I've watched it a million times. It's
very funny.
God, yeah. Kyle and Spez.
But this was great. Master Pens Theater is something we're going to have to bring back a lot, especially if this week this push for the playoffs, this historic push for the playoffs that nobody saw coming, flames out miserably, which obviously we're all hoping for. So.
I love how daunting Josh Yohe made this task seem.
Right,
like being the general manager of the Pittsburgh Penguins is akin to Ulysses S. Grant, managing the war machine in the Civil War. He's like, we got to find a way to get this payload of supplies to our men in Vicksburg. This is going to be hard. We know that we're going to run into Confederates here. We got to get these trains from New York to Vicksburg. I don't know how. Man, I really wish I had an easier job, like trying to figure out a way to win with Sidney Crosby on my team.
Trying to figure out the best package for Jake Gensel.
Yeah.
Like, like it's just, and again, we've said this before, but like, forget about the Islanders for a second. Kevin Cheveldayoff probably read that and was like, dude, I'm the general manager of the Winnipeg Jets. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like you have a hard job. I'm coaching, and they built, and he's built a great team that's really good this year. So, or even Bill Guerin. Yeah, I know that he's the one who made the decision to buy those, Parisi and Suter out, but like they're kind of falling apart here. I mean, Craig Conroy is in he's got problems with Calgary. Like, I mean, there's a million jobs that are way harder than they are in Pittsburgh because everybody's old and signed to a long-term contract. Like, come on, give me a break. But and again, when Kyle Dubas does it, it's meaningful. When anybody else does it, they're an idiot. So there you go. But yeah, this was great. Again, thank you so much, Joe, for the idea for the title, and we'll definitely bring this back, especially if the Penguins fail in this quest, and hopefully the Islanders can do their part again by winning on Monday. Okay, real quick before we sign off, we should talk about the Coyotes, who by now I'm sure you've heard are more or less earmarked to Salt Lake City. Probably, maybe, possibly as early as this week. It kind of rolled downhill really quickly last week. I don't have it in front of me, but it doesn't really matter. Basically, the owner of the Coyotes, Alex Morello, had been working on yet another kind of land scheme that I guess near Scottsdale, or closer to Phoenix, but sort of like in the Scottsdale area. The NHL wasn't really thinking that it was going to go their way. This is obviously umpteenth try, whatever, for them to try and get this thing going and get a new arena. And they're still playing out of Mullet Arena, the little college arena. And it just seemed like this wasn't gonna work. And so basically, Murillo, I think, decided that he was going to sell the team back to the NHL for $1 billion. I'll get to in a second. And then the NHL would sell it to Ryan Smith, the owner of the Utah Jazz, not former Islander, weird Islander Ryan Smith, who would then move the team to Salt Lake City and play out of the Delta Center, which ironically, in a connection to the Islanders, has a setup for hockey not unlike Barclays Center. So get ready to hear a lot of Barclays Center West jokes if this happens and they play out of there. This just really sucks for Coyotes fans, who again are much like Islanders fans. Are there a lot of them? No, compared to teams like the Leafs or Rangers or Habs or Penguins, who we've talked about in this episode. But there's a lot of them, and they care just as much about their team as we care about ours, as a Leafs fan, as Steve Dangle cares about his Leafs, and so on and so forth. And to see that this happen to them really, really sucks. But what really, really sucks is the fact that apparently the plan is not only for Arizona to get another crack at an expansion team, which makes sense. I mean, if they put it in a spot where people can go to the games, I'm sure that people will want to come. But that Morello, who has done nothing but strip this team down to the studs and is still going to get $1 billion out of it, apparently he's going to get first crack at owning an expansion team. Now, how does this make any sense to anybody? Like, why would this guy, and I think it was Larry Brooks who might have said, or maybe somebody else has said it, if this guy gets $1 billion for the team, why would he even want an expansion team? Why would he just take that $1 billion and walk away? I don't understand, but this would be like John Spano getting caught for fraud and then getting out of jail, and the NHL being like, you know what? Maybe we should give this guy another crack. Let's let him have another team, and maybe he can put it in his like native Ohio or something like that, and letting him own the Blue Jackets. Like, why would you do that? This guy has proven to be nothing but trouble. I don't understand. And so, yes, it sucks that they have to move. Yes, it sucks for the Coyotes fans. Apparently, he didn't tell any of the players. Apparently, the people who work for them some of the people who work for them, or maybe on the business side, aren't going. The players don't, they don't want to move necessarily, obviously, because they got to pick up and go to Salt Lake City now. And this sucks for a lot of people. But man, if the NHL has let this guy back in, I don't know. I mean, the NHL has never really been competent. They've been incompetent for a very long time, and they kind of wear that. But this is beyond incompetent. This is just like torturous to people. Why? And then who would root for a team owned by this guy in Arizona? I don't understand. Even if they put it in a new build, like I don't know. It's hard to get a new building built. We've seen it ourselves. The Islanders' quest was 25, 30 years to finally get UBS Arena, and we're so happy and so thankful that it is. Yeah, the parking sucks sometimes, but hey, you know what? It's a beautiful brand new building. It costs $1 billion, and the Islanders aren't going anywhere. That's the important thing. But like, I don't know if I could root for a team with this guy. He's the worst part of this whole thing. He's just the biggest villain in this whole thing. It's unbelievable. And this is a team that's been owned by everybody and your mother, So I don't know. What did you make of all this? It's been going on. It's little bits and pieces here and there. Frege obviously has been all over this, but they're excited to get Utah and Salt Lake City into the league. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is just weird. It's just a weird setup that this is going on right now for these poor people.
We talked about throughout this whole saga, like just that Islander fans and are uniquely positioned to feel for Coyotes fans because we're at the ledge. We stared at the abyss of not having this team, and I think what um, is a huge problem in the way that the game gets reported on, presented, and broadcast, which we saw perfectly in that Rangers game, is that the people who work in hockey, and this is probably true in other sports too, but this is a hockey podcast, so the people who work in hockey think that they know what the fan experience is like, but they don't because they're not fans. It's like when a media member ranks his like favorite or her favorite places to eat around the league. Like, well, it's different for you because you're getting paid and you get a per diem, so you can go to these places. But for like the average Joe who's paying for plane tickets to go to Montreal or to Vancouver, like it's a little bit of a different scenario, right? So, when you hear those folks be like, I feel bad for the Coyotes fans, like they love their team. It's that it almost comes off as like, oh, I just got to say that. It's like, oh, and when someone gets hurt from like a vicious hit, they're like, well, first of all, of course, like we hope that so and so is okay. But then they move on to should he be suspended, right? So it's like, oh, we feel bad for the Coyotes fans, but how great is it that Ryan Smith, like this guy seems like a cutthroat, great business guy. Like he's so smart about business. This guy looks like he knows how to do a lot of good business stuff. Whereas the thing that they don't mention is it's not just the games and watching your team play. Like being a sports fan when you're a diehard, like the people who listen to this show tend to be, it's not just 82 nights a season. It's the hour conversation you have with your friend in the middle of the season being like, should we trade Brock Nelson? Should we try to extend this person? Do you think that this deal is worth doing? I'm going on cap friendly right now. It's all like there's that stuff. Then there's the stuff in the summer months where you sign whoever and you're excited about it. You're terrified of it. The random day in the middle of July that pops up that a team makes a trade and you're like, oh man, could we have got that guy? I wish we were in on that guy. Like that stuff, it takes up so much of your life that I don't really understand why people overlook that part of it, of the whole experience. And I guess the reason is because they just don't get it because they're getting paid to do that stuff. It's their job. Whereas for us, it's just, it's a huge passion project. It's our favorite hobby. It's our least favorite hobby. It's just, kind of who you are as a person. So that's what I feel bad for. I feel bad for, that's what why I feel bad for these fans. Cause that was the stuff that scared me the most about when the Islanders were, and threatened to move to Kansas City or Hamilton or whatever, was that I was going to miss that. I was going to miss looking on TSN and seeing that the Islanders signed Brad Lukowich to a 3-year deal or something like that. Right. Like that would be the stuff that, I would probably end up missing the most. So, I feel terrible about it. Like you put the stuff about the owner perfectly. So I won't even add anything else for that. It's
unbelievable. Like why would you want, what does he have on these guys that they still want to be in bed with him? I just don't understand. But
it's another perfect kind of line item in the whole. Imagine being an NFL fan, or imagine trying to explain the Coyote situation to an NFL fan, and then getting to this part. Be like, okay, now imagine they take the Jacksonville Jaguars away from this guy because he's been terrible. Right. He didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell his quarterback that they were moving the team. And then they were like, "But we're going to come back to Jacksonville and we're going to give you the team, even though you did such a terrible thing."
Right.
Like, what? Yeah. In the NFL, those guys just disappear. They're just like they were Jimmy Hoffa somewhere.
Right. I mean, in the NFL, every owner is 1,000 years old. It's like an entire league full of Montgomery Burnses. Like these guys have owned this team since the 20s, and it's like then their sons own it, and their idiot sons, kind of ruin it. Like, I mean, the guy who still owns the Bengals is Paul Brown's son or whatever he is. So it's a little ridiculous, but we'll see. And again, take it easy on Coyotes fans. The jokes about there's only 12 of them. Like, come on. I mean, these people care just as much as anybody else, and it just sucks that they're not going to root for Salt Lake City Coyotes or whatever they are. Like, it's just not right. So I don't know. It's just so weird. But again, like they've been all up and down this state looking for a place to build an arena. I don't understand, why this is so hard, but it is. It just is. Like, I don't know. I don't think that part of it is totally analogous to the Islanders, because God knows, we had kind of a very contained cast of characters over the course of years trying to get arenas here. It seems like this time it's always somebody different. Like the Scottsdale mayor was weighing in before, and it, kind of sent letters around. And there was a funny article on Defector where so Alex Morello again was quiet until Saturday when he put out a press release saying that he was going to put out a press release, which was covered very well on Defector by Ray Ratto. I'm not making that up. That was the press release saying we're going to say something more soon. Okay, well, thanks a lot. That we really appreciate that. So it sucks for the players. It sucks for the people who work for the team. It sucks for fans. It sucks for everybody. So, but it could suck a lot less if Alex Morello is sent to Guam and doesn't have to, own another team, because we've seen enough of this guy, I think. So we'll have to see. But that is that for this week, I think. So we are going to be back though with another episode of Islanders Anxiety later on this week. We're going to record Thursday. That episode is going to come out on Friday. Again, win, lose, playoffs, whatever. We will talk about the aftermath and what happens then. The playoffs are going to start on Saturday, the 20th. So whether the Islanders play that day, play Sunday, don't play at all, we'll talk about it. And then after that, we'll have to figure out the schedule going forward, because we are going to do a mailbag episode next week. I kind of waited until the regular season was over to get it out there, because it seemed like it was no point in doing it before the regular season ended. But I didn't think we would be in a situation where the Islanders were going to make the playoffs. So I kind of thought we had a lot more time, but we don't. But don't worry, the mailbag will come up next week, and we'll ask for your questions, and we'll talk about that for sure. So there is going to be another episode coming out on Friday. And then I am actually going to be on with John Zella of Nassau Men Hockey Podcast tomorrow night after the Islanders-Devils game, filling in for James again. So you can check that out. You should always check out Nassau Men because they do a good job. But I'll be there talking with John, and we'll see what happens after that game. Hopefully I'm not apoplectic with anger, but we'll find out as soon enough. We did a great episode of Weird Islanders with my friend Adam Gretz that came out on last Friday, about a former Penguin and a former Islander and an all-around legend, Randy Robitaille, whom we have dubbed Mr. Student Discount Night. Why? You'll have to find out by listening to the episode. It was great. And it was funny because we recorded that just before the trade deadline, which the Penguins' outlook was very different than it is now. So I did end up cutting out about 30 seconds of it. But, I think, again, as I told Adam, this is definitely not the season the Penguins thought they were going to have. So I think that stuff all kind of makes sense. And so we'll see. So even if they do make the playoffs, don't worry, you can still listen to it. It was still a lot of fun. What else? Anything else before I do our sign-off thing here?
No. Yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna be thinking a lot about that Capitals game from last year tonight, and hopefully that just goes differently.
Think about Wade Duplowitz.
yeah, exactly. I'll try his best, and it's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most about this being over is just the opportunity to finally reflect on this regular season. And if they win tomorrow, you could start to do that a little bit, right? You'll know who the matchup is by the end of play tomorrow, or if they win, I should say. But I'm very excited to just be able to do that, to be like, this is where it led us. This regular season has led us. We don't know where the playoffs, or if we get in, will lead us. But I just want to know where this insane, torturous, hilarious, at times a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun for past couple. The Ranger games certainly, and the aftermath were a lot of fun. There are other parts that were the opposite of fun, of course, but I just want to know where it leads us. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most here.
Definitely. We shall see. It's going to be a big one. Big Monday for sure. Sign up at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety for ad-free episodes and bonus content. Follow us on Twitter at Islanders Anxiety Pod. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and YouTube Music. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music at Bandcamp and on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety Podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
You can find me at the Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Read and listen to his work at Action Network. Oh, you were also mentioned on Jeff Merrick's show this week. I hope you got to listen to that. By the way.
Yes, I
Great
did.
set.
That was quite funny because I was home with Isla that day, and so I didn't really have any chance to listen to the podcast that I usually do, and I saw that he had Hickey on,
Yeah.
or that he had tweeted out that he had Hickey on. I was like, damn, hopefully I can listen to this on the way to the game, and yeah, I finally listened to it, and I was listening to the part where he talked about me, like right as I was walking into the arena, so I was kind of just cracking up, and but
Said you were, quote, one of the funniest guys ever.
yes,
So there you go. I agree. I concur.
Emily said that she wanted his number to text him and say that is so far from the truth. Which, yeah.
That's really funny.
But yeah,
There you
good
go.
friend of the podcast, Jeff Merrick. Thank you for that. That was quite funny.
That was funny. And it was really cool. So yeah, so go back and check that out if you're looking for some more pregame material. But we'll be back later on this week. Again, whatever happens, we'll be back to talk about it. But hopefully the Islanders can take care of business on Monday and give us all a nice calm week prior to the playoffs. So thanks a lot for listening, and we will talk to you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.